Yo YouTube, hello and welcome to episode 2 of Draw for 20. I am your host, EyesOfTheFox, and today's episode is actually going to be 20 minutes because I decided to draw Raphael and then condense him into a time-lapse. So this is me recording a voiceover over that time-lapse. You can see I do continue with my grid from the previous episode. That's because I do have a reference photo that I'm using that I drew a little grid over, just so I can kind of make sure that everything stays where it's supposed to. I did make some adjustments to Leo. He was a little bit bigger than what he should have been, so I did just kind of transform him into the spot that he needed to be in, so when I would draw Raphael, he kind of fit where he was supposed to. I am going to be drawing the other Ninja Turtles, but yeah, I figured I'd start with Leo, and then Raph, and then Donnie, and then Mikey. Man, it's weird going back and watching this at like 230 times the original speed. I think the original video before the time lapse was like 45 minutes. I got some feedback from the last episode. A lot of people were like, hey, it's really cool to hear your voice. I like your little drawings, but I don't want to sit there for an hour and watch you, especially when there's like 3 or 4 minutes of dead silence sometimes. At first I thought this was going to be cheating a little bit because I did want people to see how long it actually took. So if that's something you guys are interested in, and you're watching and you're like, man, I want to actually see you sit there for like an hour and draw, then maybe I can post that video later. It just won't have any audio. It'll just be like 45 minutes of me drawing, but I think that time lapse is good enough. You can, see here I use the red line to sketch him out, and I'm kind of going in like different places just so I don't start on one part, like you start on the head and work your way down, then maybe the leg doesn't end up like where it's supposed to. So I was trying to kind of find some key landmarks that I could be like, okay, here's where his leg's gonna stop, so if something doesn't fit between here and there, then I messed up. So I just wanted to kind of create those landmarks ahead of time so I'd know exactly how much space I had to work with. And you'd think the grid would help, but I don't know if my grid's a little off or what, but I think I'm just drawing it too big. But yeah, man, if you listen to the last episode, all hour of it, again, thank you. You'd know that I did grow up with the Ninja Turtles in the 80s. I was actually born in 1983, which is when they were conceived of, and it's just I don't know, I couldn't imagine a world without Ninja Turtles. I'm still trying to figure out how to do this series. I do know that I want it to be called Draw for 20. It's kind of a little innuendo if anybody knows me. You can see here I'm redrawing his Psy, like trying to get the angle right. I drew his head a little bit wider than I think I needed to, and as we go further into the video, I think you'll notice that too. It's like, why is his head so much bigger? He always did. Raphael always did kind of have a big head. I am basing it off the action figures, which were based on the Jim Henson Creature Shop designs for the films. I do use the red line using Clip Studio Paint. I use the Pro version. I did pay for that. It's not everything I want it to be. I would love to have the EX version, but $250 something, $280 something is just for additional frames of animation and more comic book pages. Isn't really something I want to or can afford to spend right now. I think that's the most digital thing I've done in this series so far. Was if you blink and you miss it, I used the lasso tool to move his leg up, just so we kind of put it behind him a little bit more, get him in that kind of a little bit wider stance. I remember growing up, I had a lot, like VHSs were the thing. You know, if you're watching this now, you have no idea what a VHS is. I don't even know what it stands for. Like, they were already around when I was a kid. But I had a lot of the Ninja Turtle tapes, and I remember there was one that had like it was like an Easter special, but it had Usagi Yojimbo. Usagi is rabbit in Japanese. Yojimbo was a series of samurai films, and so I guess they just named the character as like a homage to that. In Japan, Sailor Moon, Usagi, they call her Bunny or Rabbit. So it's not Serena like the American version would have you believe. Here you can see I move on to my black line. I love doing the red underneath, just gives it like a really sketchy vibe. And then we go onto the black line. Raphael's got a little bit more squinty eyes than the rest of the turtles. It's just the way they designed his masks, his little mask holes in the film. If you look at them, they're like really narrow to emphasize his just furrowed brow. He's just like angry all the time. I think I don't want to say Raphael. I think it was like one of the other turtles, Donatello, I believe, but the stunt performer in the first film for one of the turtles was actually Kino from The Secret of the Ooze, and I guess that's how he ended up being a character in that. They were like, hey, you did really good stunt work for us in the first film, let's stick you in this second film as a character. Secret of the Ooze was still a little bit darker than the third film, but it was lighter than the first. And I say lighter than the first, and after going back and watching the first film, like, they really don't, like, they use their weapons, but they don't use their weapons, so to speak. Like, you never see Raphael, you never see him stabbing or hacking or cutting people, you know, which is, if you're familiar with the cartoon, that's all they did with those robots, man. They tore those robots up. In the comics, the Foot Clan were people, and they did not shy away from giving the people in the comics the same treatment they gave the robots in the cartoon. But I think for the films, they were like, you can't have Ninja Turtles cutting people's arms and legs and stabbing them. Even when Raphael is fighting in the subway to protect April the second time from the goons and the bad guys, he never actually like really uses his way. He's got his size in his hand and he punches the guy. And it's like, oh, okay, so I guess if you're holding a weapon, your punch does more damage, apparently. Again, the premise of the series was to spend 20 minutes drawing and talking, but I found that doing that, I would not really pay attention to what I was saying, or I wouldn't really say anything. I would just kind of ramble, which I'm still doing, which is fine. But I would talk a little bit more about like my decision making as far as like the actual drawing goes. But now I'm just kind of like everybody else watching. I'm just kind of a viewer, like looking at the time lapse and just kind of staring at it in amazement at the moment. I think now that I'm gonna start doing the voiceover on the 20-minute time lapses, I can maybe prepare a little bit more in the future for like trivia and knowledge and things like that. I really just kind of wanted to tell stories about what I remember. And just I think next week we'll get into like X-Men stuff, because that's around the time I was in like first, second, third grade drawing X-Men. Before that, it was Ninja Turtles, and you know, it was in kindergarten and drawing Ninja Turtles on post-it notes and things like that. I think in the future, like if I ever did sit down and do like a just kind of the live draw react for 20, I wouldn't be able to use reference. I would just have to be doodling, because that's the only way that I would be able to condense it into a 20-minute time period, is to just, you know, not actually have a plan. when you have a plan and you're like, oh, I want to make this look cool, time limits kind of go out the window. And as an artist, I found myself sitting there for like, you know, like I said, the last episode was almost an hour, and everybody was just like, man, I don't want to listen to you. I don't want to do that. So yeah, now we're here. Wow, it's so crazy. It goes by so much faster. There you go. He's got little toenails on his feet again. Again, all the show feet people out there, there's some turtle feet. I tried to match it to the look of the first one, to Leo, but I was going a little bit, I was trying to go faster than I did the first time. So I may have used a pencil that was a little bit too big. I think the one on Leo was maybe like a point or 2 points smaller. So that's just something I'll keep in mind. I didn't think about, because I was like, I didn't, for the thumbnail, I didn't think about, hey, I have to put the turtle in the thumbnail. Let me draw his whole body. So I kind of, like here, I just draw him behind Leo because that's where he is, but Leo's drawn on the sketch paper. All the line work's done on one, all the colors, everything is done on one layer, because that's how it would be in a sketchbook, right? In a sketchbook you don't have like multiple layers, you're just drawing over all your other colors. And so I wanted to kind of keep that feel to it, and in doing so I realized that I can't draw all of Raphael, because he'll even though he's on a different layer, the transparency will show through. So you can see a little bit later that I tried to actually go back and draw him, and I was like, oh man, then I realized all those things. So spoiler alert for a couple more minutes in the video. But yeah, I mean, Raphael was always really cool. I love the in the CGI TMNT movie, where him and Leo have that fight on the rooftop and it's raining. It was one of the most epic Ninja Turtle scenes I think that we've ever gotten. And I love that they kind of like that TMNT movie, man, it really did feel like, I love that it felt like a successor to the first two films, even though it's kind of its own thing. It really did feel like a successor to that, and it's not as bad as, like, I don't even know if it got bad reviews or what, but like a lot of people don't talk about it. So if you get a chance, go back, watch the CGI TMNT movie. Not the new ones. The new ones I know are all CGI pretty much, but they do have like live actions. But this was basically a cartoon, computer animated cartoon. Here we've moved into our highlights. I think when I did Leo the first time, I had my G pen selected in in Clip Studio, so it was a much harder white. So I kind of learned from that. I was like, okay, I'll use my white pencil and do those highlights. And then here I'm trying to add the green again, just because I really like the way the green added to the first one. And this all just the pencil. I think it's like, in Clip Studio I don't have any extra stuff downloaded, which is weird because previously to me recording these, I was using Windows 10, and then I upgraded to Windows 11, and I have like less brushes now, but it's the same program. I did have to do a reinstall, so I can't remember if I like downloaded some extra stuff and just forgot what it was. But I used to have like more of a selection, but for these guys I'm just using the regular, it's called Real Pencil Clip Studio. I think it's like 1080 canvas, so it's 1920 by 1080. And then the G Pen is what I use to do like the really hard whites, because I did kind of like that look that it gave, and it does kind of make them pop off the page a little bit. Like I noticed before, the Raphael was looking like it was looking kind of flat and muddy. As I move my canvas, if you hold spacebar and Clip Studio, you can move your canvas around. So a lot of times, instead of moving my whole hand to draw on a different part of the canvas, I'll just move the canvas so I can just keep my hand in the same place. And I forget that I'm recording videos, and so the whole canvas moves out of the screen, but I caught it pretty quick this time. And here I'm trying to, I don't want the eyes to be overwhelming, because Leo, I really like the way his eyes turned out, and that was kind of like a little accident, just because I'm not zooming in to get like super fine details. I'm just kind of using the 1 point on the brush. I'm not changing my brush sizes. You know, if the only time I think I change my brush size is when I'm doing the color, like the green or the white. I think I changed it a little bit, but I just don't want his eyes to be like overbearing or like pop too much, you know, just kind of be sunken more into the mask. His head's definitely wider. He's a little bit darker green. He has less of the white highlights on him. Now I'm just reacting to my own thing, like just reacting to my own drawing. So I'm trying to think if I really have any other stories, man. It's just that, like, you know, we had all the action figures, the movies. Like I kind of blew my load on the Leonardo recording for like an hour, you know, and trying to talk. I kind of said everything I need to say. Oh, there you go. See, if I clicked off Leo and I was like, fudge. I was like, how am I going to put this guy in a thumbnail with like half a shell? So here is where I attempt to draw the rest of his shell, which is fine. You know, I just kind of tried to do it as quickly as I could in the same fashion that I did the rest of the drawing. Just scribble it in. I'm laughing because I know ahead of time that none of this stays. It all goes away. Like none of it stays there. So I think the thumbnail is going to end up having part of Leonardo in the thumbnail with Raphael, which is okay. As we add the other turtles, they'll also kind of pop up in the thumbnail. Yeah, see here, I'm like, well, oh man, it's like they're all just overlapping, and so I undo everything. I don't save it, try to cut it. I just undo it, and then, you know, I'm like, okay, well, is it really that bad? So then I look at it again, undo it again, look at it again, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna leave it. That's gonna be the end of episode 2, the official episode 2. Join us next time, and I'm gonna draw Donatello, and he'll be over there on the left. Thanks everybody for watching. This has been episode 2 of Draw for 20, as I add a few little bit more things. I'll see you guys next time. Bye everybody.